All right, so we have our file here, our menu bar working. So we got new, say save, says there save menu. You click on new and it shows also new there. Next still says button click. So now ready to start putting the code, the logic behind all of this. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. The whole idea here is that we want to make sure that when they enter, let's run this one more time so we can see what I'm talking about here. So the idea is to enter a question here, and then you have an answer here. Okay, and then we can go next card and add as many cards per se, and then go here, file, save, and then we can create another card. And next, we'll then have another side of this application where then we have the card player. So we can start running. Then the logic will allow us to go and fetch all of these files that we've saved and then run them as a flashcard. Okay, perfect. So now what we need to do, we need to make sure that when they say new, something happens, and save, be able to actually save whatever they have entered here. Okay, and make it a card for us. Let's implement the next card listener here. Okay, let's get rid of this. The first thing that needs to happen here is that we actually need to create a card and pass in the question and the answer, right, that they have entered, and then create a card object and put that card object inside of our array list, of our card list array, which we created at the top here. Let's see, go back. So it's a card list, array list, which will hold flashcard objects. And then we need to clear the card, which means essentially we just have to clear all of our text area, the question and the answer. That way it will allow us, the user, to input another next card if they wish to do so. Okay, now let's go back and think a little bit about, what does a card or a flashcard really means, right? Conceptually. Well, a flashcard in this case will have to have a question and an answer. That's in the most basic form, that's what a flashcard is. So we need to create a flashcard class, which we have already here, but it's empty. So let's click on that. A flashcard is an object that has a question and answer, and then a way for us to set it. And that sounds exactly like what we've learned before about classes. We can now create a class called flashcard, which in this case, if it has to have a question and an answer, then those should be instance variables. So here we can say private string, because there's going to be a type of string, and we can call this question. Okay, and then the next one is going to be the same thing, and we're going to call this answer. Perfect. We are also going to create a constructor, which will allow us to, when we construct or we create this object, we can then pass in all these parameters, which is question and answer, and then create a card that way, a flashcard that way. Okay, so what do we do? Remember, constructors have to have the same name as the class. So as you can see, there it is. Say flashcard. There we go. Okay, there's constructor. And all we need here is to pass in our parameters. So we can say string. We're gonna call Q for question, and the next one is gonna be A for answer. Okay, so now here inside we can just set things up. We are going to say question, so our instance variable here is going to be set to whatever we are passing in our constructor. Okay, so it's going to be Q, and answer is going to be passed in A. So just very basic setting up here. Okay, and we can go ahead and create setters and getters. So the quicker way to create setters and getters in Eclipse, see what you can do. You can just go highlight those two, say right click, okay, and you go to source, and you can say generate getters and setters like that. And you have this option. You have to click those two, right, and just go yes. And notice that they're all showing at the top here, that because that's what I had that selected at the top. So let's just put it at the bottom here, because that's too much. It has to be this one here. Let's get rid of that and actually move it down here. Okay, that way it looks much better. So we have instance variables, constructor, and then we have our getters and setters. Okay, so again, what these do? Well, set question, we're just setting a question, gets the question, and all that. Nothing really terribly complicated here. Okay, so now we have our flashcard class, which means now we can use it to create flashcards. Okay, so what do we do now? We go to, let's go to our next card. Here we are going to create a flashcard. So we're gonna go and say create a flash card object. Okay, so we'll do say flashcard. Gonna call it a card. Gonna instantiate it, right? And notice flashcard, right? We have question and answer we pass in. And how do we retrieve our question and answer? Well, we know our question is inside the question text area, right? So if we go and say question, there it is, it's just a text area, dot, we can actually get the text from the text area, which means whatever the users have input inside of the text area, right? So we say get text, and for an answer, we do the same. We say answer dot get text, right? So now we have created a card, a flashcard, really, that has the question that I have inputted and the answer as well. Now that we have that, we are going to add it to our card list array list. Okay, so we created our array list at the top here as an instance variable, so we can use everywhere whatever we want. So now we have to instantiate it somewhere. Let's instantiate it. So here, let's go ahead and say card list, an array list, new card, new array list, flashcard. There we go. This card list array list that we instantiated here, ready to be used. So that means inside here now, I can add it to that card list array. So say card list array dot add. I can just pass in the card. Let's run the application again. What we're doing here is the following. So we add here a question, whatever that may be, and we add here an answer. And the moment I hit next, we have created, this next card listener here is called, and this method is called, and this happens. So we create a card, we get, okay, so we get the question.getText. So we come here into this text area, we get the text inside, which in this case is going to be questions. When we pass it in here, and then we get the answer, and we also pass it, which makes an actual card. And once we have that card, we just take that card and put inside of our card list array. So now our array list has one card, okay? If you want to see this in action, let's go ahead and here and say system out.print, and let's say size of array list, okay, and we're gonna go ahead and say card list dot size. Okay, let's save this and run again. We should see, actually let's go ahead and copy this right about here before anything was added, so that way we know what's the size of the array. Okay, so let's save this. Okay, so now if we go and say hello, I'm just putting stuff here. Check this out. It says here size of array list is 0 because when we ran there was nothing. But the moment we say next, look, size of array list 1. That means we have added something. If we keep going, size of array list is 2. We hit next, we are adding more cards, right? In this case, we haven't changed anything, but you get the idea. So that's what's happening. So it's working. Okay. Get rid of that, because we don't need that. Let's kill that. Perfect. So we know it's working. And the next thing, when that happened, when we create that card, we want to do something else. Well, we want just to clear the card. So we want to be able to just clear the text and everything. That way we allow people who are using this app to add more questions. So what do? We're going to call a function called clear. Which we haven't create. Clear card. Okay. And we can click on here, and this should say create method. There it is. Let's create it, put it somewhere else, not there. I'm gonna just put it at the bottom here. Okay, so now this clear card is going just to clear the entire screen essentially, so that users can add more stuff. So how do we do that? Simply, we say question that set text, and we pass in nothing. And we say answer that set text, and we also pass in nothing. So essentially we're just saying, okay, whatever it's inside there, just clear everything and put nothing in there. And on top of that, what we can do, we're gonna say question that set that request focus. So essentially we're just going to say we want the focus of the cursor to be on the question, because that's where we want people to go ahead and type the next question. Okay, so that's all we're doing here. So as you can see, it's a very small method function here that we created. Nonetheless, it's an important one. Okay, so let's save this and run one more time and see if this works. Okay, so let's go put something here and put something here, say next. Look, it's clear. And we created a card. Yeah, perfect. Great, great, great. This is really good. So we are getting there. All right, so we will stop here. I want you to go ahead and study a little bit of this code. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'll see you in the next video.